So a woman looks at the camera and says she can't get along solely based on her skin color. Not because of credit, not because of debt to income, just her color. That one sentence is doing more work than most people realize, because once that becomes the default answer, everything else gets harder to talk about, honestly. So we're going to walk through what happens when that mindset meets real numbers, real history, and people who stop accepting it as the final word. Start with the claim itself.
Natasha, you won't get the loan because your credit is bad, not because of your color.
No, even, I said if we had the exact same background financially.
But then you'll get the loan then. You will get the loan.
Explainer. Why don't you do less talking over me and more listening,
Natasha,
okay?
Natasha, you will get the loan.
Jesse, there are laws against her not getting the loan. There are laws on the books. She's going back to the 1950s. And those laws,
how do you think those laws are doing? Because you have a PhD. You're not an idiot.
Do you realize that you're on a serious ego trip that's going to hurt you in the long run? You're in denial. It's like you are...
Like Donald Trump?
Do you realize that you are...
I hardly have an entire radio show dedicated to
Natasha, you realize you're the emotional bastard case already? Natasha...
Oh, wow. She's not describing a specific bank, a specific application, or a specific credit file. She's describing a force. And the second you accept that force as the main reason, you stop looking at the things you can actually control, right? Credit scores don't care about your politics. Lenders don't care about risk. When the explanation jumps straight to race, it quietly removes the need to examine the file. Now, I want you to listen to someone who has heard this explanation his entire life and just decided it wasn't good enough.
Racism. I've experienced a person say something racist to me, but it has no material effect on my life. It didn't stop me from doing nothing. This person called me the N-word while I was a cop, and I don't think it hurt me for 35/10 of a second. So I have never had anything racist, systematically, that have prevented me from becoming as successful as I am today. Not one thing. Now, can I respond to what everybody's saying? I think that when I listen to everybody's statement, there is no unequivocal proof that what happened to you was specifically because of the color of your skin.
You know, I agree. You know, look, let me explain something to you all. I grew up in North St. Louis in the late 90s, where it was so bad, cops protested not to patrol a certain area. Now, we were lucky to get our family moved down to the country where I grew up around white folks, right? So I spent half my life in the ghetto and the other half around horses and pigs and shit in the country, right? Let me be the first to let you all know the only racism I can remember that I received is from my own people. Okay. Now, again, like Brandon said, certain people said things to me, but it never allowed me to look at myself in the mirror and say, oh, I cannot proceed in life because I think this person racist. Okay. You know, the only thing that I can say that holds black men and black women back in this country are black men and black women. Yeah, like these 20 black libtards that is on this damn panel talking about nothing, right? Listen, guys, this is United States of America. It don't matter who say what to you. You have all the opportunity, because the thing is, it's just an endless amount of excuses. And let me tell you, if you want to be successful in life, and it's not just about financially, but spiritually, right? You need to stay away from people like this. These are grifters. These are people that create problems, like your Al Sharpton, right? And your Jesse Jackson and your Obama and all these are people that create problems. The reason they create problems is to keep you down, because they understand as long as they on top and making all the money, they can control you.
Never ready for that. Now, Tatum is saying the quiet cost out loud, right? Every time systemic racism becomes the first and last answer, personal responsibility gets demoted from the entire situation. Not eliminated, just demoted completely. And once it's demoted, the same problems keep showing up in the same places with the same explanations. All right? The cycle doesn't need new enemies. It just needs the old story to stay in charge. Now, I want you to watch how that same exact logic shows up when the topic turns to violence.
I want to try to explain why crime in the hood is not the same as mass shootings. In the hood, there are people that have ops, targets. So the people that they're going after to kill, while it is wrong, there is a legitimate reason they feel they have, and they have beef with them. So that is the intention, and they usually have bad aim and don't care about the victims around that target. However, they are there shooting because they have a target. That is an op. When Jake from State Farm does it, he don't even know those people. Man, ain't know anybody in In-N-Out. That man didn't know that little girl that he shot at the library. Y'all don't be knowing any of y'all victims for real when you do mass shooting. But you killed them anyway. Dylan Roof sat with all of the church members and prayed before he shot them. None of them were his op. The difference is when black people do shootings, we have a target, and while it's not moral, it's logical. When you do it, it's not moral or logical. It's just psychopathy. But while y'all could bring up every single shooting that's ever happened in Chicago until you're blue in the face, it still don't change the fact that all of those shootings required a target. Somebody that they had legitimate concerns or beef or any issue with. There was some kind of connection. You kill people without connection or reason. You just do it for fun. And that's the problem.
So she's drawing a clean line. Those shootings have reasons. Mass shootings are pure, psychopath energy. But I say dead is dead. All right. Targeted or random doesn't change the body count or for the families left behind. The need to protect one category of violence from the same moral weight as another is its own kind of denial. Violence doesn't become more acceptable because the motive feels familiar. It's crazy. Now, I want you to look at what those streets actually produce.
Taking the juggernaut that is demolishing the weaponization of law enforcement and bringing it to places like Chicago. When I was there today with Todd, we learned that the Chicago city streets have 110,000 gang members. That's right. You heard me right. They had 1,200 shootings this year alone, 360 homicides. When politicians choose to side with those metrics and not their citizenry, thank God we have President Trump and this Department of Justice and this FBI going in there and crushing violent crime. And President Trump sent us into these cities quietly to set the stage, to set up for the National Guard, to see the success that we saw in Washington, D.C., in Memphis. The FBI has been leading the charge in every single one of these streets because we know how to gather ground-level intelligence, and we know how to put handcuffs on the bad guys, and we know that we have the backing of this administration. And most importantly, the agents at the FBI know that they have the backing of the American people and their government. Taking
110,000 gang members, 1,200 shootings, hundreds of homicides. Those numbers don't care about the narrative. They just keep adding up. Cities that spend the most time talking about root causes somehow keep producing the same outcomes year after year. At some point, the results, they have to be able to be allowed to speak louder than the talking points. Now, let's zoom out further.
Well, people try to say, to try to say that the Democratic Party was the party of slavery, and to try to say it's that party now, that's a stretch. No, it ain't. The only way this is a stretch is that you're worse than you were then. At least you cared about your slaves because they were property, and you didn't. It was just like a horse or a pig. You didn't want to hurt it because you needed it for something. Black people now, you don't even need them for the vote. In fact, you're exterminating them. For the first time in American history, the black community is dying. In world history, we're beyond our rate of replacement. With drugs, with alcohol, with violence, hip-hop culture, no education, breakdown of the family, poverty and crime and prison. Again, you Democrats are still in charge. Same way you was in charge on the plantation, you're in charge now. So you're the same party, except worse. You're taking your murder to an industrial level. And that's the worst thing about Roland Martin and the ones like him. And that's why I take pleasure in exposing him for the liar and the pervert and anti-Christian bigot that he is. I'd embarrass Roland a little bit, but as far as his stature in the black community and on the left, it's probably going to rise sky high now. Fauci, the biggest mass murderer in American history. And the Democrats and the black Democrats coming out trying to even take up for him. Drag queen story hour, women in girls sports, men in girls sports, 9-month abortion, anything. Because the people that follow this institution right now are very morally debased people. And Roland Martin is their standard bearer. So y'all, let's have some fun with Roland. Let's not give him no quarter. Let's laugh at him. Let's laugh him off stage. Let's do it, because I'm here to wake you up.
So Ellison is making a hard claim outside of, Roland Martin, that the current condition of too many black communities under decades of the same political leadership has done more sustained damage than the historical evil everyone already agrees was evil. Family structure, father absence, crime, dependency. You don't have to accept every word he says. You don't have to explain why the same cities keep getting the same results while the language stays identical. Now, this is the last one. Apparently, the history that almost never makes the lesson plan.
Muslim with my life before any Christian of any race. And you want to know why? Muslims didn't put my ancestors in chains.
Yeah, you picked the wrong hill to die on, bro. Because not only did Arabs enslave Africans, it's actually the longest standing slave trade. In fact, it was never abolished. The Arab-Muslim slave trade, also known as the Trans-Saharan slave trade, is recognized as the longest in history, spanning over 1,300 years. It forcibly removed millions of Africans from their homeland. Oh, and it gets way worse. You see, while European merchants primarily sought, strong young men to work their fields, the Arabs had a different idea in mind. For the Muslim merchants, there was a heavy focus on concubinage and sex slaves. The demand for females was so high that merchants would double their price, and the Muslims would impregnate their female slaves to try and stop reproduction between the Africans. You may be wondering what they did with the men in all this time. They castrated them, a procedure that resulted in the death of many during the process. Can you imagine being a man having to watch your women be ripped out of your homes and then having to watch them be sex slaves, and then you're castrated on top of that? It's no wonder that a lot of the slaves, the male slaves, committed suicide. It is beyond emasculating. It is beyond humiliating. And when we go to the Quran, we see that Muhammad was not only a slave owner and slave trader, but that he would buy other slaves for 2 black slaves. So black slaves were worth half as much. And the Quran teaches that those who go to heaven have bright white faces, while those who go to hell have black faces. To understand, a lot of the English translations are watered down. The original Arabic is brutal. Slavery still exists today in many Arab nations. I dare you to go to Libya as a black man and see what they'll do with you. In Palestine, black people are called al-Bid, which means slave. They're literally in a neighborhood called al-Bid, the slave. The Hadiths even praise Muhammad for his whiteness.
All right, so there are a lot of claims made in this video, and I'm not going to go over all of them, but just so that you have a reference that you can reference back and fact check, here is, according to AI, a true or false on every claim that was made. And this is every individual claim in that video. Arabs enslaved Africans, true. Longest standing slave trade, true. It was never fully abolished, also true. It was 1,300 years, true. If you look, every single thing that was mentioned in this video is true, right down to Muhammad was a slave owner who engaged in slave trading, true. Slavery, including today, still exists, that's true. And if we keep going down, every single statement is true. Libya right now has documented modern slave markets. And take a look at this. In Palestine, black people are called this, which means slave. Neighborhoods have been referred to as this, which is the slave. I mean, that's pretty crazy right now, because you see actually a lot of people siding with Palestine that are black, but right here in this area, they call them the slave, and they have neighborhoods called the slave. I mean, this is just really wild.
1,300 years. Heavy focus on women and girls. Systemic castration of men, a trade that didn't end because of a civil war or moral awakening in the same way the Atlantic trade did. None of that erases what happened in America. It does something else. It removes the idea that one group of people holds the exclusive copyright on human cruelty. When only one version of the story is taught, the conclusion is already decided before the discussion even starts. The long claim, the violence ranking, the gang members, the political legacy, the incomplete history, they all circle the same question, right? Do we keep treating race as the master key that unlocks every locked door, or do we start treating it as one factor among many and then demand better results from the factors we can actually move? I mean, one approach keeps the conversation comfortable. The other one requires people to look at credit files, the family structure, culture, leadership, records without flinching, all that. Comfort has been tried. The numbers are still what they are. Now, I'm not interested in protecting any party's feelings. I'm interested in what produces fewer bodies, stronger families, and people who don't need racial explanation of every setback. If that makes some people uncomfortable, good. Discomfort is usually the first sign that the old stories are losing their grip. So if you made it to the end of this video, I want you to just write the word truth in the comment section. See to it that no one takes you captive by philosophy and empty deceit. This is Colossians 2:8. Be safe. Please go check on somebody today. You can quite literally be saving their life. Peace.